Interesting character. He thought that computer programming should qualify as a foreign language for high school students. And I thought that was so wrong. It's like, let's just remove Jane Austen from schools and just teach computers. That would make human beings really great, wouldn't it? Welcome to class, everyone. So I have no idea what we're going to talk about today. I've got a series of slides, but I did want to show you this. One of the things I'm not going to talk about this except to show you an example of something I once did one time. But in entrepreneurship, there's this notion called guerrilla marketing. You guys know what I mean when I say guerrilla marketing? Have you ever seen a guerrilla? Sebastian, you have? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, no. Maybe. Like guerrilla warfare? Is that guerrilla? 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 Sound like an NPR host. You're like, hello, my name's Chris Pryor. I'd like to talk to you about guerrilla warfare. Have you noticed they do that? Anyway, guerrilla marketing. So it's very low cost, high impact, and unconventional. And if you can align those three things up, you've got yourself a nice little guerrilla marketing campaign. So as a quick example, I ran a newspaper in my undergrad years. Don't go Google it because it will offend you. We didn't talk about dog racing, but if I had known, I would have probably. Very offensive stuff, and I've grown up a lot since then in some ways. But we're going to launch a website. The name of the newspaper is called The Fountainhead because the guys who created it were objectivists, Ayn Rand fans. And then they gave it to me to run after that. And the website we created called thehead.org, the Fountainhead, because nobody wants to type in the Fountainhead. So I thought I'd just keep the name of the Head. Also kind of funny for its own reasons. So late one October night, back in 2003, I'm just trying to think of what date it was, me and my buddy go out to the South Oval at the campus at the University of Oklahoma. I got to show you the map. I got this all pulled up sequentially. So here's Oklahoma. Here's Norman, where OU's at. I got to go to the satellite view, just so you guys can see this. So here's the football field. That's 100 yards. You guys all know that. And so here's the South Oval, which is right next to it. So it's just a big, long, grassy thing, split down right through the middle of campus. And so from this statue right here, there's a statue in there somewhere. It's right there. Through this, it's like a giant billboard. So I got some ryegrass seed from Home Depot, and I went out there and spelled our website down the South Oval there. It's nighttime. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we couldn't see anything. And, of course, you're just throwing grass seed into grass that's already there, that's already green. And the idea is in November, when the rest of the grass dies, in Oklahoma the grass dies because it gets cold. Doesn't do that here. Your ryegrass will be coming up bright neon green. So I'm walking to class one day, and I have a little heart attack because there it is. It came up. There's the THE. I just couldn't help myself. Head, HEAD. You get to see what's .org, .org. Those letters like 20 foot tall. There's the D, just to isn't that cool? There's the length of it. Anyway, my parents called me because it was on the news. And they're like, you're going to get suspended. I said, no, I'm going to deny everything. I have no idea what happened. What are you talking about? But inside, I was really panicking because I'm sure there were cameras on campus. Anyway, I'm sitting in my apartment by myself the next day, and the newspaper calls me, the student newspaper. And my buddy, Clifton Adcock, writes a story about it. I ended up being friends with him. And the headline, Vandalism Takes Root on Oval. Isn't that a great headline? Journalism students, you should be paying attention. And then I love this. Large letters have appeared in the South Oval, spelling the name of a website of a publication. According to the OU Department of Public Safety police report, around October 24th, unknown suspects spread seeds. It spread thehead.org, the website of the Fountainhead. Let's see. The sergeant said it's an act of vandalism. And there's the Fountainhead editor-in-chief, Chris Pryor. Says he had nothing to do with it. Sounds like an act of God to me. Nothing to do with that, sir. And then the landscape guy was really pissed, and he's like, "Oh, that's going to cost $300." It's, I think he says we may have to kill it out during winter. It's more annoying than expensive. And he says it's going to cost about $300, which is probably true. And then the president, David Boren, he's like, it's obviously trying to interfere with landscaping. Smacks of vandalism. It is inappropriate. It was pretty cool because the ABC affiliate in Oklahoma City got their helicopter. They got a helicopter with nothing to do, so they went and drove over it. And then that was like just a giant commercial for my newspaper. I was ready. It's one thing to have this and have a nice little fun stunt, but how does it translate into money? And so I actually had a landing page at my website, support the cause. And so you could click on there, and then we had a PayPal account set up, and they were able to give us a donation or buy a subscription or whatever it was. We raised like $15,000 doing this, and it cost me $30. I got on TV for free. All right. And I couldn't admit it for like 5 years because that's the statute of limitations. So anyway, marketing, guerrilla marketing. That's all I wanted to show you is the one little thing that I've actually done this. We take great pride in the university's landscaping. Old David Boren, bless his heart. He's what's that?
How long did you have to wait for it to grow?
A month. It took a month. And those of you who were actually, I don't know, this class is big enough that maybe it's true, but there's a group called the Leadership Institute, which teaches, it's a conservative organization, but it's nonprofit. Anybody can go take their classes, but they teach people how to win political elections. And it was a trick I picked up from them. Because about this time of year, if you do it right, this is when the grass shows up. So what they teach you to do is go to interstate overpasses where the grass embankment, goes up the side, and go spell out your candidate's name along the grass embankment. And so then you've got this natural billboard, and then the newspaper calls you, and you can say, well, it seems like God is a supporter of Andrew Gillum or something like that, which is a great punchline anyway. So I got to talk about this, selling. So selling is one of these things. I was on the phone with a student yesterday, and you guys get so bogged down. All of us do. Entrepreneurs do. You remember the baby, our ugly baby? We're so obsessed about the baby and making the baby better and making sure the baby's cute and everybody loves the baby that we forget to try to sell the baby. And selling is one of these things that you need to be thinking about first from the very get-go. In fact, if you ask me, when you're out there talking to customers about your idea and trying to figure out what their problems are, you're selling. That's part of the selling process. But it's something you got to be able to do. And if you don't do it, there's a problem in the entrepreneurship world, in the startup world. You come up with the idea, written your business plan, and then you start selling. Well, that's a problem because as we've explained a few months ago or a few weeks ago or whenever it was, that there's a buyer behavior process, and that process takes time for people to go through. And so if you don't start selling until after you've launched, customers aren't going to buy for a period of time. You've got to be able to survive. In between, you got your product ready to go to your first sale. Now, the essential thing here is, and we talked about this in class already, is how do you what are the actual behaviors that go into that selling process? And they follow the buyer behavior process. If your customers are looking at certain magazines, that's where you put your newspaper advertisements. If they're typing in certain Google terms, those are the Google terms you're targeting in SEO efforts. But you don't know what those are until you go out there and map out the buyer behavior process. So there are some mistakes that entrepreneurs tend to make. Besides simply overlooking selling, assuming customers are going to come to you. Number one, founders don't want to be salespeople. You're a founder. You're the idea maker. You're the inventor. Sales for somebody else. In fact, you may be an entrepreneur because you don't want to do sales. I'm telling you, it's hand in hand. It's all the same. If you can't do one, you're not be able to do the other. You think you've got to have salespeople do it for you. And this is a poisonous idea because until you know what your customers want, until you go out there and try to make a sale, you don't know what the product should be or the service should be. These things should be intimately connected with each other. In fact, when big companies do sales wrong, it's because sales is separate from the engineers or because sales is separate from the product designers or whoever that is. They've got to be connected even in very large firms. There you go. There's separate activities. Not only are they separate people, but they're separate activities. I'm repeating myself up there. I'm getting ahead of myself on my slides. Yeah. And then the other thing is you take these ideas you've learned in your marketing classes and you try to apply them to what you're doing in your startup. The problem with that is that these large companies, the way Procter & Gamble sells a product is not the way you should be selling a product. You're the founder. You're at the top of the pyramid, right? If you're going off the marketing textbook, and you've got a department, you've got people who are going to go out there and do your marketing research for you, and you're going to go out to people who generate leads for you and all that stuff. That's not the way it works. Here, it's different. You're the person in charge of everything. And everything involved in sales, generating leads, following up on leads, closing deals, and then growing your customer base after you've made the sale, is all on you. It's all on you. So, what's this? For the professionals, and this is true for entrepreneurs too, by the way. It still involves good leads, knowing who your customers are, establishing credibility for what it is you're trying to do. You saw this even with the guy on Monday, Tyler. His credibility helped him get all that stuff for free. It's important for you. And it took him 4 years to get it, by the way. So don't be worried if it takes you a long time to get there. And then a marketing team. Now, that's not necessarily going to be true for you. You do the marketing yourself because you don't have any money. That's what that picture represents. So here's kind of the sales process for the entrepreneur. It's identifying who you're targeting and then working them and realizing that it's a process. I did this so wrong. When I was, what had happened to me? I was graduated undergrad, and I was working in Tulsa. And I thought what I would do is create like a magazine for college students at Oklahoma State. Stillwater was about an hour away from Tulsa. And so I made these proofs for this really beautiful magazine. I copied the Esquire pretty much, all their style. It was really great looking. I mean, but I steal from the best. What can I say? And so I go up and down. It'd be like going up and down Midtown, going into all the bars at noontime. Have you ever been? There's not a sadder place in the world than going into a place like Ball's in the middle of the day. It's just not. Although, you don't do that, do you, Sam? Okay, good. How would you get there? You have to walk? Take the bus? Have you got a car yet? Yeah. What'd you get?
Same one.
Really? Fixed up or like a new one of the same kind? All right, good. Does it run okay? Outstanding. Perfect. That's what we like to hear. We should all be happy for Sam. All right. What was I saying? Anyway, so I go into a bar, and G've got my dummy of my magazine printed up, full color pages. I spent like $30 on it. I'm so proud of myself. I'm thinking this is gonna close the deal. And so I go in. I ask for the owner. Owner's never there, or they're there, and they take a look at who's asking for them, and then they say that I'm not here. Tell them to go away, which probably happened more than the other. And then I went away and never went back. All because I thought sales is like a one-time thing, that you show up, you ask for the money in exchange for an advertisement, and then they say yes or they say no, and that's the end of the deal. But that's not the way it works. It's a relationship like everything else. My very first thing to go in there should not have been asking him for money. It should have been asking him, well, what's he think about his current advertising? What are some of the problems? What are some of the drawbacks? And don't even talk to him about what I'm trying to do. Just like you guys have done this. And your opportunity identification assignments, and you're testing the hypothesis. You did the exact same thing. That's step one of engaging a customer, is talking to them about their problems. So that when you come back, you can have an answer for them. Making the match, doing the deal, sales learning curve. Now, I even teach this when people come ask me for advice on how to get a job interview. I make the same recommendation. You know, a typical job interview goes like, you show up, you've got your resume, thank God you made it that far to the interview. And then they start asking you a bunch of questions that you're supposed to answer. Isn't that how it goes? One of the little tricks I tell people to do, and I'll just give it to you guys for free. You're paying for it, so I'll give it to you anyway. Stop it. They're going to ask the first question, and then your response should be, look, there's going to be lots of times for me to answer your questions. Do you mind if I ask you a few of my questions of my own? Do it at the very beginning. And all of those questions will be about what kind of problems do you have in this business? What kind of things are you looking for in the employee you're looking to hire? What have been some of the mistakes or challenges you've had in hiring people before? So that when you give your answers to their questions, you're going to be able to address everything they've just told you they want in a candidate. In the meantime, if you don't do that, you're flying blind, aren't you? You're hoping that you're going to say the right thing. Flip it around. You're a product. Your interview process is a sales effort. And we don't ever treat it like that, and we should. Anyway, so the most important thing, in my opinion, is selecting the target, figuring out who's going to buy from you, who's the most likely person, who feels the pain today. And you've got to recognize that nobody, I don't mean nobody, Not everybody is going to buy from you. Not everybody wants your thing. There's always a weirdo out there at the very least. But there's probably many, many, many more people who don't would never buy it than would actually buy it. So here's the deal. And this just goes back to market definition. Where are you located? That's where I'd start. It's where are you? Who's going to buy from you? You got a website? You're going to create an app? I'm still thinking about location. Because you've got to go in person and talk to somebody about buying an advertisement or about buying your data package that you're going to produce through the user's use of your app. So and then once you know location, then you maybe know those companies that are, or individuals who are most likely to purchase from you. Ms. Muhammad, for example, do you mind? I mean, you've got a very, very, by definition, it's a very niche idea. Wants to help young black women have the resources to go into nail technician business and school and all that stuff. And where are you going to open that up at? Here in Gainesville?
I'm thinking of make the nail salon first and then go.
You're going to make a nail salon first. Okay. So let me just ask you a straight up question. Does a nail salon that you're going to open up for this target market, is it going to make more sense at East University and Waldo Road, or is it going to make a lot more sense out in Tanatioga? You know what I'm saying? You got to go to where your customers are. And if you try to go out to Tanatioga selling a black nail salon, it's not going to work. If you're trying to sell, you got to go to where they're at. And we just think, well, carte blanche. We're going to do Yahoo ads or Yahoo ads. Give me a break. Facebook ads are, Facebook ads are insidious. They're horrible because it's hyper. It's a broadcast of a message that not everybody wants to hear. It shocks me to this day that people still buy newspaper advertisements. It's so stupid. So target it. Figure out where the pain's at and narrow it down. One way to narrow it down is who's got the urgency? Who needs to buy from you today? This is so hard to do without having actual business examples. But there's going to be people who've got a need for your problem today. Let me pick on quinoa burritos. Quinoa burritos. Healthy fast food. How about that? Healthy fast food. Who's got the urgency to eat healthy fast food? Just think about that. Guys, who's got a healthy fast? Is there anybody in here doing a healthy fast food restaurant? It's interesting. There's usually like 40 each semester, and there's none of them in this class right now. That's okay. Guess, people. I'm not moving on until you say something. Who's got an urgent need for healthy fast food? I don't think anybody has. Vegans. Urgent. It's keeping them up at night. They're breaking sweats thinking about, I got to have this. That's urgency. Yeah, that's closer. So take just diabetic people. Or who else might, because of health reasons, have an urgent need for suddenly healthy fast food? People with heart disease? Is that what you said? Oh, pregnant people? Could be pregnant people. So the people with diabetes, pregnant people perhaps. I was thinking people with heart disease. If you took a look at just diabetic people, among that group, who's got the highest level of urgency? Maybe some urgent. So there's something pushing them to change now.
Maybe they're
So you want? Yeah, it could be.
fast food aspect.
Could be. So they've recently become very busy. I mean, like it's like urgent, and it didn't used to be urgent. Urgency. We all have these problems in life that are urgent. Have you guys ever had an urgent problem in your life, and then eventually it becomes kind of less urgent? If you ignore it long enough, it just fades away. You guys know what I'm talking about? So urgency is time related. Where do you find people who've got the most urgency? Well, it's not just when they've got time constraints, but it's when they've just right now got time constraints and they didn't have any before. Or it's when they just get pregnant. Or it's maybe on the diabetic patient when they just got diagnosed. That's urgency. So where do we find those people? I'm hanging out at diabetic offices. Who treats what kind of patients are? What kind of doctors are those? Endocrinologists? I have no idea what that would be. I have to Google that. It's a Google answer. Where do we find out people who just got pregnant? You got to go find. Okay, you want to go find every lady in town who just got pregnant? Where do you go? Where do you go? Yeah, it could be. You're hanging out at the OB practice looking for thin ladies. Why isn't it?
Because you're just a dude hanging around.
So you want to be now. Isaiah does this. Have you ever been busted?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you're out. He's out on bail currently. I'm glad you have gracious enough, broad enough to still employ him. Yeah, you got to be careful. You can't just. Where else could you find out people who get? Are there baby shower registries? Are those a thing? Of course they are. Could you monitor all the registries that happen in a particular place? I don't know. Go talk to Bed Bath & Beyond and monitor all the registries that have just been posted by date. That's one way of doing it, isn't it? I don't know. It's probably sketchy. I may be hanging out, so I know this because we just had a baby a year ago. The very first thing Yana started doing was going to all the classes at North Florida. You know, like, baby care classes and diaper changing classes, which I didn't learn. You know, baby CPR classes, which is totally pointless. And then, those are people. Those are urgent. Those are people who are all right. Guys got me. Urgency. Urgency is related to the moment they have the feeling. When's someone most likely to buy a desk? When they've moved, maybe. Someone's moving to a new house. They're going to need furniture to fill the house up, aren't they? Well, okay, so how do we find people who just bought a new house? Real estate agencies. You guys know property transfer records are public. You can actually go to the county courthouse and see all the property records and who just closed on a piece of property. That's a good that's a way to generate leads for a list. Oh, lordy, guys. What about, we had a student came to me the other day. He wanted to sell housekeeping services for people who had homes. Housekeeping services. Who's going to be the urgent one there? So something has just happened to them where housekeeping has become an important deal. Maybe they're about to move. So how would you find those people? They've just listed their house. That's public. It's a list of leads, folks. If you doing that and working that list is going to be so much more effective for you than just going door to door, knocking on doors and selling people housekeeping services. You've got to be focused, and it starts looking for people who've got urgency. Is the number of people who've got urgency big enough to support a business? So Sam's thinking about going to the Comic-Con down in Naples. I don't know, maybe Naples is going to have a Comic-Con, and it specializes in obscure Central American comic books, like all the Dick Tracys of like Central America. Is there a Central America version of Dick Tracy? I don't know. You guys know what Dick Tracy is? Yeah, okay. And so Sam needs a yellow slicker because he's going to go dressed as Dick Tracy to the Comic-Con in Naples. There may be 5 other people in the world who would buy from us a yellow slicker because they are all also interested in dressing as Dick Tracy for the Comic-Con. But there are many, many, many more people who would be willing to buy a pair of Vulcan ears for Comic-Con because Spock's cooler than Dick Tracy. Don't you agree? By definition, because nobody knows who Dick Tracy is. All right. The number of people matters. If you've got only 2 or 3 people in your market, you've defined it far too narrowly. Broaden it up a little bit. Are there connections to other industries? This is a really interesting thing to think about. Each year I teach a business plan class for MBA students, and we work a business idea and using a business plan. And last year, one of the ideas was to sell online financial education to schools. Online financial education schools. And so they're going to create like a module of 12 courses, and then students can take these courses online at the schools themselves, and they get certified as like financial experts or something. And they were thinking about who to sell it to. And so if you think about that, you've got public schools, you've got private schools, and you've got homeschoolers. Which order? Who should you target first and why? Okay, you target private schools. Why?
Because it's probably easier for them to be able to purchase your
That's true. That's true. In relation to the others, though. No, I think you're right, actually. So let me tell you. So you're right. Yeah, and here's why you're right. Here's why you're right. If you develop online education for homeschool students, that creates a sort of brand perception around that product, doesn't it? Anybody in here homeschooled? Besides Sam? Homeschooled? What's the rep of homeschools? Homeschool kids? You may not know. We have to ask the rest of them. What do we think about homeschool kids? Weird? Socially, oh, you must know a whole bunch of them. Socially awkward, weird. They all know Latin, but like, what's good? What's the use of that? Do you know Latin, Miss Muhammad? All right. I knew a homeschool parent who taught his kid Latin. It was crazy. Like, what a weirdo is what I was thinking. Look, if you're developing a product for homeschool students, it creates such a weird brand aura that other schools may be less likely to touch it. I like the idea of going to the private school first, because if the private school buys it, what's the big fancy private school in Jacksonville? Like Bowles? So Bowles buys your product, and you're able to show that Bowles likes it and their students are doing well with it. Is it easier or harder than to walk into a public school and say, this is really working really well for the rich people in Ponte Vedra, or where Bowles is at? It is, isn't it? It's easier. It's also easier, by the way, to go into the homeschoolers and say, hey, this has worked really well at Bowles. So think about the kind of customer you're going after and the other industries they're related to. And that may open doors for you in terms of markets. So always keep that in mind, too. Now, qualify. This just simply means you can't sell to everybody. So you're generating a list of people to sell to. And there's a few folks to avoid. Be careful. Folks who require too much customization. Textbook publishers probably email me once a week because I've got 750 students, and if I put a textbook on the syllabus, you guys have to buy it. Especially if it's one of those textbooks that have got the online modules where you actually have to buy the code to get into it. It's horrible. It's sinful what they do. They've figured it out because you guys all scan these books and send them to each other, which is good for you. It's very entrepreneurial. But they come to me and they're saying, hey, we'd like to get our book in your class. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know you would. I know you would. 750 times what? 100 times 3 is a big chunk of money. I know you want in here, but I don't want your book. I do not want your book. And this is what I tell all of them. I say, what I'd love from you would be a blogging platform. And I know they can do it because they've all created these online versions of their books. A lot of them even have online assignment submission sites like Canvas. Create a blogging platform that will detect for plagiarism. Just do that for me. I'm like, oh, well, I'll get right back with you. And I never hear from them again. But like a week later, they're going to sell me another textbook. It's customization. I want too much, and it's not worth the returns. I think it is, actually. I've tried to show them that it is. They just don't believe me. Anyway, customization is too much. It's too much customization. Where customers are price sensitive. This is true for consumers, but it's also true for businesses. I was on the phone with a student yesterday who's got not a weird business. It's a business that I try to get into. I'm a graphic designer by trade, and using my graphic design skills to freelance. It's a hard thing to sell businesses is graphic design work because they all think, well, anybody can do that, can't they? I'll download InDesign and work up some flyers. So why am I going to pay you $20 for that? Why can't I just get that for free? You should be thankful to me for giving you the opportunity. So when you go to a business, you've got to be able to talk to them in terms of price. What does it generate them in terms of revenue? So you've got to be able to communicate this to them. If your flyer is able to generate 5 leads, and they know they're going to convert 1 lead, and closing that 1 lead is worth like $10,000, and they're going to spend $5,000 on you to get that 1 lead, then that's What's that, 100% return? That's not bad. That's how you got to talk to them. Price sensitive is an issue, but it's easy to overcome, especially for businesses, because all they care about is revenue. It makes it very simple for you. Obviously, where customers don't have the budget, you guys who are going after students, bless your hearts. Bless your hearts. Students don't have any money. One time, I may do this as extra credit at the end of this semester. I asked students to go out and give away 5 $1 bills to show how hard it is to give away money to people. People won't take it from you because they think you're making fun of them or you think they're homeless or something. Try giving away money. That's hard. Try asking for money in return. Anyway, it's a great extra credit assignment. I may do that to you. But here's the deal. 50 or 60 students will email me and say, $5. Are you out of your mind? I'm not going to be able to eat lunch for a year. I mean, they're way over the top. But you guys don't have any money by definition. You don't even have $5. You don't have 2 dimes to rub together and generate some heat. So quit going after students, folks. Quit going after people who don't have the money to pay you. All right. So at the organization level, so other ways of thinking about how to identify the right lead. Is it located in the right place? Ms. Muhammad wants to open up a nail salon here in Gainesville. Someone comes to her. They're from Lake City. We love your idea. We'd like to have you open it up there, a second version. You've got to think long and hard about that. And you've got to probably turn it down because the distance makes things very hard because you're not going to be able to manage it as closely. You're not going to be able to pay attention to the employees as closely. You're not going to be able to pay attention to the culture, especially for your business. The culture inside is so important. How do you maintain that over distance? You can't. Is it in the right industry? The customer is located in the right industry. You're selling to private schools. Let's say Ethan Fieldman over at Study Edge, though, likes your product so much that he'd like to sell it. He wants you to sell it to him. You got to think about that. Do you want to get into outsourcing educational content for other educational providers? Maybe, maybe not. Got to be careful. I was dealing with, FAR. FAR, you don't come to class anymore. That makes me very sad. But FAR had me work with him, his team. Enactus? Are you guys in Enactus? There's some group, they're breaking into small groups of these consulting projects. And they're working with this guy here in town who has a nonprofit, and I think it's for like cancer treatment or heart treatment, something like that. And you could tell what's happened to him. At first, he wanted to just help donate money to people who are suffering from, say, heart disease. And then it finds, well, maybe there's people who got heart disease, but maybe there's people who got cancer. Maybe their kids are in the NICU. And so he started creating all these other little businesses, all these little nonprofits to treat everybody's problem. And so this guy's got like 20 different businesses going on, all raising money and all giving money, and nobody can figure it out. That's a consequence from doing this incorrectly, not being able to say no. Saying no to the wrong customer is important. Got to focus. You got to know what you're doing. And if it's outside that, it's almost better to think about not doing it than to keep doing it. Is the business the right size? Is the business the right fit in what you want in terms of customers? At the opportunity level, obviously, does the customer feel the pain? This is related to urgency. If the customer does not feel the pain, who does not feel the pain that's requisite before they buy a quinoa burrito? Who doesn't feel that pain? The person sitting at the line at drive-thru at McDonald's does not feel that pain. That's the last place you go to sell your quinoa burritos, folks. I think even healthy people probably don't need your quinoa burrito because they've already got it figured out. And that's kind of ironic, but it's true too. Urgency is where the pain just showed up. So at the decision maker level, stakeholder level, inside the business or the person who's buying, this could be inside of a business. This could be inside of a family. If you're selling vacation packages to Las Vegas, who should you talk to, the mom or the dad of the family? Probably. I don't know. It doesn't matter which one. But the answer is one or the other. And if you're going after mom when it should be dad, you're going after the wrong person. Have you thought about this? It's important. If you're trying to sell a business, I've mentioned this before. If you're trying to sell a product to a business, who in that business makes the decision? What if it's more than one person? Who's involved at what stage? How do you find out? Pick up the phone and call them. Go sit in their office till they deal with you. It's not hard, but it involves getting in their faces until they make you try to go away. That's true, actually. Alienating them a little bit. and who define the criteria for the decision. This is really interesting too. A lot of times, businesses, especially if you guys are in the B2B world, and maybe you guys are going to go work for companies and you're going to do sales for companies that sell products to other businesses. What they're typically doing is responding to requests for proposals, RFPs. So a private company or a public company, like a school district, will post a bid, an open bid that anybody can respond to. Say, hey, we'll provide you this service that you're asking for at a certain rate. The worst thing you can do is just respond to those cold. The smart people who do RFPs really well are those who actually contact the person who wrote the RFP. Say, hey, what kind of thing are you looking for in a response? What are you looking for in a contract? And then you go and write it in a way that meets those needs. If you're doing nonprofits and grants are going to be a big source of your revenue, where your revenue is coming from, don't just look for a grant proposal and write it. Call the person who wrote the darn thing and ask them what they want to hear in the grant proposal. Nobody does this. You should do this. All right. Okay, obviously. Hot versus cold prospects. So hot prospects are people who you know. This does not include mom or dad, by the way. Mom or dad don't get to be prospects at all. They're not real people. At least for you. They're for other people. They're real people, but not for you. Start with hot prospects, which would be the ones you know, maybe the advisors, I don't know, people who helped you along the way. And then you can verify with cold. If you can find a cold prospect, so a cold prospect is somebody you don't know at all. Somebody you've never talked to, but someone who may have a lot in common with your current customer, or maybe with a hot prospect. If they are interested, if the cold prospect's interested in your idea, it's a good validation of what you're trying to do. It's a good validation of what you're trying to do. Because they're backing up the hot. Cross-validate, that's what I mean. All right, and then have a conversation to make it about them. You guys have done this already. In your identifying the opportunity problems, forming an opportunity belief, testing the hypothesis parts 1 and 2. It's all about talking to them about their problems. You guys go into a cell phone store recently? Or it's so everybody buys iPhones now, so there's almost not any. But did you go Verizon? Where'd you go? What happened when you walked in? Do you remember? Okay. I was just in one last week because I got a flip phone. I got a flip phone. Did you see it? Look at this. And it's giant. This thing, by the way, is $150. Yeah, outrageous. Outrageous. I probably could have found a Nokia 1610 used somewhere that works just fine. It's huge. The guy says, why? Actually, I saw a story in the New York Times just last week that it was the chief technology officer of Facebook. Actually, there's a quote from her in the New York Times saying she thinks the devil lives in smartphones. When the Facebook CTO says that, it's time to move on, folks. They're reprogramming us in ways we don't even know is happening. So I thought I'd break away. I only had the shakes for a couple of days. The withdrawals was not that bad. Not that bad. And my raginess has gone away too, quite honestly. I knew it was time to get a flip phone when I raged out on my Windows phone on Twitter. Like, these two priests were in an argument on Twitter, and I was like, I just want to take my phone and just smash it and burn everybody. And I thought, I got to get a flip phone, because this is not healthy. Not healthy, folks. Anyway, all right, what am I talking about? So you go into a cell phone store. This is true. I had a buddy who worked at Verizon, so he told me the secret. At Verizon, they actually have a technique called earn the right. You're not allowed to sell anybody anything. You have to ask them what they want first. What brings you in today? What are you looking for? You guys have all seen, The Wolf of Wall Street? Remember the famous, sell me the pen? And then the first guy's like, look at the amazing pen. The second guy's like, well, tell me what do you use a pen for? The second guy's right. There's nothing rocket science here. But we're so obsessed about our baby and how cute our baby is that we want to sell the baby. Nobody cares about the baby. They only care about how the baby solves their problems. So important, and yet we ignore it. Keep it simple, use the language, obviously. This is especially important about those bids. If you're working at the B2B level and you're responding to bids, or if you're working in the nonprofit world and you're writing grants, make sure you're talking the language they talk. I mean, you can see this in the world we live in. Certain groups of people use certain kinds of language. There are words like deeply. People just say deeply a lot. Intersectionality is a word, depending on the grant foundation you're writing to. Conservationism versus sustainability. Those are terms. Use the terms back to them because it shows you've been paying attention. They're going to respond more positively to it if you give them your language back. Just pay attention to how they talk. So important. All right. That's my pitch on selling. I don't know. We'll see if that was any good or not. And then we'll come back and we'll do some math. So hang with us for that. Be right back. No, math's fine. It's fine.